Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back and happy Friday to each and every one of you. The esteemed Mr. Paul Mashatile is in the news again. He spoke at the National Council of Provinces and he defended BBBEE, and effectively he said that anyone who wants to scrap BBBEE just wants the country to go back to apartheid. Now, before we get into it, because as you can imagine, I have a lot of information, a lot of data points to prove to him that he's a moron, he doesn't know what he's talking about. One of the things that is just, I think, getting a little tired, and I do think we're getting to the point where it's kind of played out, is the continuous referral to apartheid as the ultimate boogeyman. And what it shows, I think what it proves, is the ANC's complete lack of intellectual powerhouses. You know, if you go back to like the 1980s, the early 1990s, the ANC had a bunch of people that I disagreed with vehemently on just about every issue, but they were intellectually powerful, right? These people understood what game was required to be played, how to use their narratives in order to win elections and also win debates. What we see nowadays within the ANC is a sort of continuous apartheid. If we use the word apartheid, that gets us out of trouble. What they don't understand is in the past, when these people referred to apartheid, they would use a carefully crafted narrative in order to make that stick. Now, the narrative is kind of falling apart, and it's natural that it would, because a lot of the young people today that are 18, 20, 21, 22, they don't know a world under apartheid. Right? If I go to 30-year-olds, almost all 30-year-olds today was born in the free South Africa. Well, all 30-year-olds today was born in a free South Africa. They have only ever known a free South Africa, and for as long as they've existed, the ANC has been in power. And so the ANC playing this game of blaming apartheid, who's he? They don't know this apartheid fellow. They do know the ANC, and they do know that the ANC has overseen just incredible economic declines. But of course, Mr. Mashatile needs this transformation to continue, because what they don't tell you is that the transformation isn't about strengthening the black population in our country. And I do actually have some data that I will share with you in a second that prove that. But it is more to allow them to steal. I read through this article literally yesterday. The cancer of corruption has metastasized at the Gauteng Department of Health. And in this, it is insane how much money was siphoned and stolen from hospitals, and almost all of it through BEE compliance legislation, where companies are brought in under tendership, and these companies are stealing massive amounts of money. And of course, all of these companies belong to ANC cadres. So when Mr. Paul Mashatile is speaking about defending BBBEE, or BEE for short, he is talking about defending his friends getting very, very rich as a result of BEE. But okay, let's just quickly get into it. Speaking at the Council of Provinces, he says, we are in a country where black people are probably 90% of the population, but 70% of the economy is controlled by others. It can't be allowed. It will never be allowed. We have to come up with policies to change that. And anybody who says we must scrap that, it means we must go back to apartheid. Well, if we actually just look, it's not that we have to go back to apartheid. I think if we're just looking at how the economy of South Africa is doing, we've never left apartheid. Mr. Paul Mashatile, here's what you don't seem to understand. The material conditions of ordinary South Africans, black South Africans in this country, has not become better as a result of you guys getting into power in 1994. The unemployment rate is now almost double what it was in 1994. The economy, far worse than what it was. Here we have the real GDP growth in South Africa since 1994. And what you will see, South Africa is lagging behind consistently, even behind sub-Saharan Africa, and very far behind the upper middle income brackets of this world. Real GDP per capita data also shows that we are incredibly far behind the rest of the world and almost not growing since 1994. So the question, Mr. Mashatile, would be, what do you mean go back? We've never left. All of the policies may have gone. Black people are now allowed to be in cities, but black people are still not part of the economy. And you've not made that better for them in any way, shape, or form. You basically say, leave the economy in the hands of whites, and that's how this country is going to work. We're not actually saying that. It will never be allowed. Black people must be empowered by this policy of BEE, and we have seen that it does work. Really? Where? Where have you seen that? Economic growth is stagnant at 0.8%. This was the latest numbers. 0.8%. The first quarter of this year was 0.1%. So clearly that's not happening in terms of economic growth. When we look at actual GDP growth, there is literally no GDP growth in this country. When we look at actual unemployment rates, we view and we see that unemployment is worse than what it was in 1994. So what do you mean when you say that it is actually working? What he means is it's working for some. And that's all that matters here. It's working for his friends. Him and his friends are getting very rich off of BEE. And so it's nice. You know, why wouldn't you want this? It's conditions of the current geopolitical situation as well. He claims that unemployment around the world is actually a very big problem. And that, you know, when the economy of the world is doing poorly, everyone is sort of doing poorly. But this, again, is not actually true. Economies around the world has some unemployment, but for most economies around the world, unemployment is well within the margin of error. It's well where they want it. You always want some unemployment. You don't want full employment because that would create havoc in the markets. But no one else is really in the position that South Africa is in specifically. It's transformative legislation. I spent more than 40 years of my life fighting apartheid. I'm not going to allow it to come back. Not in any form. I am here where I am because I want to empower black people because they were oppressed and today they don't even control the economy. Okay, so here is the statistics that I wanted to share with all of you because this paints a very different picture. Here is the ANC's legacy. This is employment composition within each skill level by age group. Okay, and I want you to focus on this. Right at the bottom, the blue is 1994, the red is 2014. Low-skilled workers, you will find that the blue was far higher in terms of low-skilled than it is in 2014. This was 2014. I can't find any more up-to-date results, but it's not gotten any better. I can almost guarantee you that. But that's actually good. Low-skilled, it means more workers are now skilled. That's actually pretty good. In terms of semi-skilled, we see a slight uptick in terms of 2014, but in the 1994 numbers are in a lot of cases kind of comparable, especially for people between the ages of 45 and 54, and even the ages of 35 to 44. There should have been a much greater change now. And then, of course, we look at the actual skilled positions, and here it's almost exactly the same as it was in 2014. This is a direct result of education, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. In order to get the skilled number higher, education has to be better. And when we actually look, we look at coloreds, for example, in this country, and you see this is what you would expect. Coloreds made took full advantage of the new disposition, now being allowed to join schools and be in schools and actually educate themselves. They took full advantage of that. And what we see is that in terms of low-skilled, yes, 1994 actually in some age groups are way higher than what the 2014 numbers are. But then you go to semi-skilled and you see that actually 2014 is starting to catch up. But in skilled, 2014 is way outpacing the other groups, right? Way outpacing the 1994 number. Then we go to Indians and Asians and we see exactly the same thing. In the skilled market, this is where we're looking at education. There's almost a double-digit increase between 1994 and 2014. So Indians and Asians took full advantage of the education environment. And of course, with whites, we see the trend continue. very low skilled, some semi-skilled. If anything, fewer semi-skilled people in 2014 than what there are in 1994, which makes sense. Semi-skilled work is one of the first places where BEE said, no, you can't have any of these workers be white. So most of them moved to the skilled positions, getting their degrees and so on and so forth. So you see in 2014. So the group that we are continuously told is the group that the government really cares about and really wants to save is the group that literally changed almost nothing, where life just got worse. If anything, we look at the ages 25 to 34, and we see that our young people who were born in the new disposition, these are not people with an apartheid level education. There are more skilled people in 1994 than what there are in 2014 among black young people in this country. This is a disgrace. So when Paul Mashatile speaks about how they're transforming the economy, the question has to be, for who? For who exactly? Unemployment amongst black people is insane. Poverty rates amongst black people, insane. Black people are suffering under ANC policies, and it is the ANC that continues to tell you that, hey, we have to continue these policies because, well, we're transforming the economy. Here's the thing. I do believe that black people should have a transformative approach to the economy. But I don't believe that what we're doing currently is actually helping with this. I think working with the private sector, try and get the private sector to open up more intern positions, to help people get skills, maybe going to companies and giving them tax breaks if they fund schools in rural areas, going to companies and giving them tax breaks if they fund universities to help young black people get into those universities on scholarly bursaries. That's the word. Sorry, couldn't find the word there for a second. But on bursaries, that's the way that you transform the economy and actually allow more people to partake in the economy. But the current system, the BEE, forcing companies to just sell 30% of their businesses, that's not leading to an advantage for the black people. If anything, by every metric, it's leading to a complete destruction of the black population in South Africa. And where in 1994, they had no grasp on the economy, they have even less now, because you have destroyed the very economy that they were supposed to at least have access to. And it's not getting better. If you like what I do and you think more people should have access to honest and rational conversation, please consider hitting the like button, hitting that subscribe button, and letting me know in the comment section down below what you think of this story. As always, massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members. If you want to support this channel, consider hitting the link in the description down below for Patreon, or just hit the join button below this video to become a member. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.